Hey there, Penelope Bent here. Welcome to Build It Baby, the podcast for dreamers who are doers. Well, over the past year, I have noticed Build It Baby really evolving, and I've come to realize that didn't happen by accident. It happened through thousands of conversations, and not all with people. Some actually with artificial intelligence. Now, before you click away and think this episode is about technology, come on now, stay with me here. Because this isn't really a story about AI. It's a story about what happens when you finally find a place where you can think out loud without judgment. Where every crazy idea gets explored instead of dismissed. Where questions become much clearer, where patterns begin to emerge, and where your own voice becomes louder than your fear. That's what happened to me. This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. So I think something that I have learned along the way is that no one builds alone. Every builder throughout history has had a sounding board or sounding boards. Perhaps it's editors or mentors or friends or mastermind groups or business partners or coaches. And today, I'd like to chat about the idea that maybe, just maybe, that sounding board also might include a bit of artificial intelligence. And like I mentioned before you jump out of your chair here, I'm not suggesting that AI replaces wisdom. I actually just believe that AI may help expand our ability to think. Think about this for a second. When you have previously worked with collaborators, when we're working with a group, the first thing we do is we have our idea and then we refine it. We organize and then we reorganize. We challenge the concept. We start to look for deeper patterns. That's collaboration, right? I mean, I've been doing that for years with an amazing team. And one thing I've noticed over the past year is that my first idea is almost never my final idea. I know in the process of creating Build It Baby, 1 minute I want to talk about fear, and then 30 minutes later, I find myself actually thinking about identity or alignment or trust or becoming. Why? Because I think throughout the process, I keep asking better questions, defining my work every step of the way. And I believe that process is valuable. I think many people quit thinking way too soon. And I think some of that might be because they have not found the perfect thinking partner. So I've had an interesting experience when I owned the modeling and talent company. We had a terrific producer, Neela Ritt, fabulous gal. And, I'm always sitting on the floor talking a thought through or, what the next creation is going to be. And one thing I found from Neela is that, we'd have this morning big get together and we'd throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and we'd come out with a plan. Well, by 2:00 in the afternoon, that plan had changed dramatically because it's all kind of an evolution. It's a creative process. And Neela would ask to speak with me in the office, and she'd come in, close the door, and say, I thought we had this dialed this morning. And she was having a really hard time with the flexibility required in that whole collaborative process. And I know when we first started talking about Build It Baby, I honestly thought it was going to be a how-to business building podcast. Because as you know, I love to build businesses. I think everyone should own one. So of course, my focus was to help others build. But instead, I slowly uncovered what I believe Build It Baby is truly about. I think today Build It Baby isn't only about building businesses or career or a life of your dreams. It's more than that. I think businesses is one of the expressions of that we have. But I think it's really about who we're becoming along the way and the constant identity growth that we all experience while we are building, whether we're building a business, building a career, we're building confidence, we're building relationships, building a meaningful life. I don't think I saw that on day one. I know I didn't see it on day one. I discovered it. And many people become attached to their first draft. I have learned not to. Because I'll spend weeks asking, does this feel right? Am I missing something? Is this really who Build It Baby is? Is this really what I want Build It Baby to be about? And that curiosity is probably one of my biggest reasons Build It Baby keeps growing. And people often ask if AI will replace creativity. And through my experience, I think it's exactly the opposite. I think, being able to tap into some AI from time to time, it doesn't give me my purpose. It sure as hell didn't give me my experiences. It didn't tell me what I believe. It simply helped me hear my own voice more clearly. And the interesting thing about that and why I shared the piece with Neela is because when things like that happen and you're working with your collaborative team, it also made me nervous about testing my ideas. It inhibited me. And I think through my experience with my thinking partner, my AI thinking partner, I can keep throwing out my ideas. There's no big sigh in the room like, what the hell? We've been over that before. And I've experienced that. I remember when we were trying to decide the colors of a new building that we had moved into. And I remember my art director going, oh, for Christ's sake, we've talked about that before. Let's make a decision here. But I needed to go through my process. So I think with AI, I have the freedom to just chat my ass off with this unknown thinker. And that's what allowing that has taught me. It's taught me to ask better questions of myself, to challenge my assumptions, to organize my thoughts. And I learned that by having a thinking partner, I could dig deeper and define or polish my ideas. I found reassurance and clarity in my ideas because honestly, there's no judgment there. And I think it's a kick because AI and I do not always agree on everything. We will certainly battle it out, but it's great understanding. It's a deeper level and what I have been wanting to uncover. Because in the beginning of building Build It Baby, I had 100 ideas spinning in my head. Because Build It Baby wasn't really formed yet. Recruiter Mania was evolving at the time. Everything was there. It's just, it was not yet completely organized. And then I started asking questions, having authentic conversations with my thinking partner, artificial intelligence. And they weren't questions like, what should my logo be? But it was questions like, who am I really trying to help? What keeps showing up here? Does this matter so much to me? Why does this matter so much to me? Those are the conversations that changed everything. And I remember the day I discovered Build It Baby was never only about business. It was always about building the life you were designed to live. Because I remember thinking, there it is. That's the heartbeat. That's the true essence of what I want to share. I want to share the fact that I know that you have all the parts and pieces to build an incredible life for yourself. I think we were given all of those parts and pieces at birth. And I didn't come up with anything brilliant. It's because I had finally uncovered my own why. Because I could just throw it out there. There weren't, any judgments. There was, like I mentioned, no size in the room. And I cannot tell you how many times I've said to my thinking partner, let's just play with this. And that's becoming one of my signature phrases. Let's just play with this. Let me play with this. I never expect perfection. You know what I expect now? It's very exciting. I expect discovery. One minute I might say something doesn't feel right, and then I just keep digging. And I do this sometimes for days until it finally clicks for me. So that process is what people usually never see, because ideas are everywhere. Most people have them, but builders, we do something with them. And let me tell you, there were days I thought I had everything figured out, and then one question completely changed the direction of the conversation. One day I asked a question about a LinkedIn post. I wanted an idea. I had kind of the basic idea, and I just wanted to clarify. And somehow we ended up redesigning an entire business model. Now, how we went from just a little bit of more of a clarity on my idea that I wanted to make on my post, and then I ended up with an entirely new business model. And that isn't about artificial intelligence. It's about building your own personal board of directors. Building who helps you think, who challenges your assumptions, who remind you of your strengths, who asks better questions than the ones you're already asking yourself. Sometimes that's a mentor. Sometimes it's a friend. Perhaps sometimes it's a coach. And sometimes it's a conversation with artificial intelligence. The tool matters less than the willingness to engage honestly. And people ask me all the time, is AI going to replace human creativity? And after a year of working with AI from time to time, here's what I believe. AI didn't give me my stories. It didn't give me my experiences. It didn't give me my purpose. Those, like I said earlier, those were already mine. What it gave me was simply a place to think, to test my ideas, to ask one more question, and to hear my own voice a little more clearly. And in the end, that's what Build a Baby has always been about. Not building faster, not building bigger, but building something that's genuinely yours. And sometimes the bravest thing you can build is a safe place for a conversation that changes the way you see yourself. And you too may discover the conversation that changed everything. Because I believe that's what this journey has really always been. The quality of your conversations comes from the quality of your questions. And you don't come looking for someone to tell you what to think. You come looking for a thinking partner who allows you to think more deeply. And through my thinking partner, I discovered I didn't want to help people become someone else. I wanted to help them uncover who who they already were. And that wasn't AI. That was me, Penelope. The conversation simply created enough space for me to actually hear myself. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. Okay, so here are my knowings. Number 1, I know that the deeper I dive into my own truth, the clearer I get as to who I am, and that opens my mind for self-discovery. Number 2, I know that life is long and full of very bright possibilities. And number 3, I know that the greatest gift I have is my mind and the courage to use it. So those are my knowings. Okay, here we go. It's time for listener question. And this is from Michael in Atherton, California. So here's Michael's question. How do I identify a viable idea? Yeah, you're taking it right from the top. So you have an idea and you're wanting to kind of start looking at, whether you should move forward on it. Well, I think that I would, first of all, I would definitely look at my own personal skill set. So anytime you're thinking about building something, you've got an idea for something, I want you to remember not to undervalue how important you, the builder, the top dog, if you will, the beginning, worker bee, to really take an honest look at, do you have the skill set to be able to launch the idea, to get it off the drawing board? That's huge because, you're eventually going to be looking at financial profitability here. And the more personal skill set you have, the more you can jump in and wear several different hats, the better chance I think that you have at succeeding, especially when you're starting, from the ground up. So really evaluate that, and don't, light your smokes and tell yourself jokes. Really, look truthfully, because I know for myself, oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Well, there's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so much energy that you have. So try to be realistic when you evaluate what your own skill set is when it comes to the viability of your idea. The second thing that I would look at is I would do a lot of research regarding the market demand. Whatever this thing is that you're thinking about building, is there a demand in the marketplace? And then I think you need to even broaden that. Are you talking about the marketplace is this a global thing? Or are you talking about the marketplace in your own town? Is this, what are the parameters of the marketplace? Determine the marketplace and then determine whether there is demand for that idea. I also think that when it comes to financial profitability, everybody always asks, what is there financial profitability in this? Well, one thing that you have to remember is that, and I have learned this, is that there's much more profit from the beginning if you create a company that is service-oriented versus product-oriented. Because you have to think about, okay, how much is it going to cost me from a financial profitability standpoint in the beginning, which usually, my profit was like slim to none. I mean, the money's on hand or basically slim to none. So I had to really look at how much is it going to cost me to launch this business. And when you have a service business, it's a lot less expensive because, like I mentioned, you don't have the engineers that might be needed to develop the product, or the other folks with different skill sets than yourself that are required that you're going to have to pay from day one. I think you really have to look at that. Service businesses are so much easier to launch because there isn't that huge overhead to getting them off the ground. And then the way I did it was, for most of the businesses that I've built, I then, as I made money, then I increased the business based on the money that I earned. I was always reinvesting in the company. Now, when I opened the clothing store, that was a little different because I had to have the budget to go to market and be able to outfit this 1,800 square foot store. So I think that was a completely different thing. And in that particular venture, in the very beginning, I did have a business partner that had a lot of the funding for us to kick this off the ground. So that might be another thing to look at when you're looking at what is required in putting your idea out there. So I think that if you go ahead and look at your own personal skill set, your market demand, and what is the size of your market. And then whether it's a service versus a product or a combination of the two, that will help you establish your financial profitability. And I also think it's really important to be really, clear about the financial profitability. Err on the lower end, so you don't give, so that you do have a cushion that, okay, well, if we make more money, then great, I can, make sure that you want to look at the bare bones of it. Do I have enough money to pay the overhead for the family as I'm launching this thing? And don't make it a pie in the sky thing. Be realistic. Come up with like a lower number. If it's a one particular figure, lower that by 20 grand or whatever, because there will always be some little piece of something that comes up that's going to cost you more money than you had originally expected. So, Michael, great question. I hope you do follow through on your idea. I think the exercise in identifying the viability and the process is very, very important. And by doing all that work, I hope you do come to a conclusion that, it's one that you can really see happening and that you can launch. Hey, please do keep me posted on that journey. I'd love to hear how that all works out for you. So thank you again. Hope all is well there in Atherton, California. Well, it is that time. Thank you so much for listening to Build It, Baby. Whatever you're building, whether it's a business, a career, relationships, or a whole new chapter of your life, I hope you really truly remember this. You don't have to build it alone. Ask yourself, who helps me think? Who helps me see what I can't see? What conversations have I been avoiding that could change everything? Who challenges my thinking? Who asks better questions? Because sometimes a single conversation doesn't just change your mind. It could change the direction of your life. Always best P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original, hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashin and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or a career, you're building a bold life.